Welcome to the Book Fair Podcast. My name is Anthony, and this show is all about children's literature and the freedom to read. This week, we have an interview with Taylor Hobbs, author of the new YA book, Heartbreak and Other Organ Failures. Next week, we will have another episode covering new book releases, as well as another interview on Friday. Make sure to follow the podcast wherever you are currently listening to stay up to date on the latest news in children's literature. Now, let's begin with this week's interview. Hello, Taylor. How are you doing today?
Hi, Anthony. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate the excitement. I love having these conversations, and the excited energy is very much appreciated. Can you start off by introducing yourself for the audience and the book that we'll be discussing today?
Okay. Hi, I'm Taylor Hobbs, and I wrote a YA contemporary book called Heartbreak and Other Organ Failures. And in this book, there's two sisters, Kaylee and Zoe. And Zoe has both developmental disabilities and medical complications. And the two girls decide to go on a road trip to track down their estranged father to convince him to give up a kidney. So a lot of chaotic energy, hilarity, stories along the way. It's a really great adventure. A lot of sisterly love.
Right. And let's talk a little bit about that sisterly love, starting by talking a bit about Kaylee and kind of her role as the younger sibling, looking at her relationship with Zoe.
Yeah, so Kaylee has always had to live her life maybe for experiences for both her and her sister. She is the younger child, but she's kind of in a caretaker role for Zoe for some of it, but a lot of it is just a lot of common sibling energy, despite Zoe's disabilities and everything that they're juggling as a family. They try to keep it as normal as possible. And so they're very much in each other's lives. And Kaylee loves and adores her older sister, is there for medical appointments, and they're trying to support Zoe through dialysis, and Zoe is in urgent need of a kidney. And so Kaylee is going to do everything in her power to make sure that happens for her sister. Nothing is going to stop her from getting her sister this kidney.
And it's not just the issues with Zoe that are present throughout this story. Kaylee also has a friend group, and she also has a boyfriend. They are currently in a long-distance relationship. Can you talk a little bit about just the relationship with Blake and how the two communicate and what role Blake plays in this story?
So Blake is very much representative of the normal teen experience. And Kaylee is kind of caught between two lives. Blake has gone out of state to a college, and Kaylee wants to follow him, but is also torn between him and then everything that her sister needs at home and being that support system. And she's trying her best, put it that way, to make all of her dreams come true. And what do you do when two dreams are in direct opposition of each other? And how is she going to reconcile that and work through those issues? And also, yeah, just that rush of first love and future questions. There's a lot of, I think, trying to understand how her future is going to be affected with her sister, but also staying true to herself.
And Taylor, can you talk a little bit about Zoe in particular? Because I know that a lot of times in media, when you're examining a character and a family's relationship with a person with special needs, it is oftentimes difficult to present the person with disabilities as their own unique character. Can you talk a little bit about Zoe and kind of your approach to writing this character?
Yeah, so that is definitely one of my pet peeves with disability representation in media. It's often these characters are used simply as like a mirror to hold up to your main character, or they exist as just like a infantilized or um, like perfect, sweet. There's no depth, and I really wanted to make sure that both Kaylee and Zoe have their own character arc throughout the book. That's really important. That they're going on this road trip journey together, and Kaylee is realizing things about Zoe. Zoe is also coming into her own along the way. Uh, and my goal was to make sure that both the girls ended up um, fighting for their futures. They both have a hand in that.
And when it comes to writing a character like Zoe, was there any kind of work that you put into research, or maybe was there somebody that you were able to draw inspiration from?
So my own sister has developmental disabilities and global delays, and so I very much grew up in a similar situation, and it always made me sad that there was never really any good representation of that sibling bond. And it's I wanted to capture like the love and the chaos and the hilarity of our day-to-day normal, which doesn't always necessarily look like somebody else's normal. You're just dealing with a different set of questions, right? And this was the book that I wish that I had growing up. And I wanted to honor my sister and our relationship and make a bond between Kaylee and Zoe that is very similar. So hopefully, hopefully I succeeded.
And a little bit less on the actual creative side, more on the publishing side. When it comes to the editing process and the publishing process, did you receive any editorial notes? Did you utilize anything like sensitivity readers or beta readers as you were writing to make sure that things were fair and representative?
Yeah, so this book wouldn't be in existence without my wonderful agent, Mike, Michaela. They were so integral in getting to the heart of the story. When I had pitched it to them, they it was a little bit of a mess, but they saw, and my editor at Norton as well. She's just been able to point me in the best direction as far as like answering some questions or clarifications or like, hey, we need to dive in deeper here, or what do you think that Zoe would be feeling at this moment, and just uh, keeping everybody on the same page with what the goal of the story was and what we were trying to accomplish. And yeah, it's just been an amazing team. I appreciate their insights so much, and they're also just incredibly wonderful and sensitive and understand where I'm coming from with my experiences with my sister, and they really matched the vision for the book, and I'm so thankful that they were on board with the story.
Now, I wanted to touch back on something you had said earlier when you said that Blake was representative of the normal teen experience, and that in writing this book, you wanted to show the everyday, normal, day to day of your and your sister's relationship. And a lot of times, the word normal kind of has a bite to it when it comes to people with disabilities, people in marginalized groups, and this idea of a normative experience. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of putting together, not just in this book, but in other writings, the importance of making sure that there is diverse representation and how that matters to you?
Yeah, I like Kaylee trying to have at the beginning of the book kind of like what she considers to be like the life that she's trying to cultivate in a very small town where there is not a whole lot of diversity and also not a lot of support for her sister, and not really understanding until she leaves that small town environment that there's a whole lot out there that she's missing. So like her world is also opening up. Zoe's world is opening up and them realizing like, oh, this there is a lot more. There's surviving and then there's thriving. Um, and I think like her definition of that also changes throughout the book. And the expectations for herself and kind of what she thinks that other people want from her. Um, that's also a major journey.
The big thing that kicks off the story is the need to travel out of state because Zoe and Kaylee's father does not live with them. Can you talk a little bit about the girls and the relationship between their mother and the relationship between their father?
Yeah. So one of the things that I love in this book is just the dynamics between mothers and daughters, because like when is it ever not complicated, you know? I think I loved the mother-daughter journey for them all the way to Oregon. The father, he was a very interesting character to write. He's not a villain. I wanted to make sure that it's just a very touchy subject with like kind of parental estrangement and the why behind it. Um, and I think at the end of the day, it's just that everybody is complicated and you can only heal so much each generation. And I think the important message with the parents in this is that everybody is trying to do the best that they can. And where they fail and fall short and all of that, it's intent behind the relationships. So
And exactly on that frame of everyone is doing the best they can, we see that their mother is really stepping up into the role of a parent who is now a single mother and taking care of two daughters, especially a daughter with special needs. Can you talk a bit about their mother and kind of the ways that she really does her best to make sure that she is taking care of her children?
oh my gosh, their mother, Julie, is a force of nature. She is absolutely incredible, almost narrow-minded in pursuit of her goals. And also her character arc is kind of knowing what's best, and maybe thinking and assuming that she knows what's best for everyone, and kind of letting go of that control as her girls are growing up and wanting to make their own decisions. And I just adore her.
One of the things I talk a lot about in interviews and on this podcast is the importance of young readers seeing characters with agency in works that are written for that audience. However, YA novels kind of have a little bit of a different challenge about them in giving characters agency, but also strongly emphasizing the ways in which the perils and pitfalls of characters come from their own shortcomings and realizing that in life they are going to fail. Can you talk a little bit about some of the struggles and road bumps that Kaylee and Zoe have throughout this book?
Yeah, I think some of it is you just got to do the best with what you have, and realizing that not everybody is coming at it from the same perspective, and you are going to fall short in a lot of it, and you just got to keep going. Kaylee messes up a lot in the book. She is chaos incarnate for some of it, and she has goals for her future that are often clashing, and she's trying to make things happen with the knowledge that she has and make the best decisions for her and for her sister, but also realizing that her sister is n- needing that same agency. And yeah, YA is just such a special age group. I love it. I adore it. It's everything to watch kids grow up and be in the world for the so many firsts. with Kaylee, it's first love, it's first road trip. It's really the first time she's been on an adventure out of her small town. And to see it through her eyes and, her relationship with her mother and her sister, um, develop outside of what she already knows. I love those first moments.
Kind of in the vein of firsts, you talked about Kaylee giving Zoe her own sense of agency. When it comes to writing an adult, or in this case, well, I guess she is an adult, she's 19, writing a young adult with special needs, what were the ways that Zoe was able to find her own agency when you were writing this book?
For Zoe and Kaylee wants to help and support her sister in all of these ways and help take care of her and make sure she is safe and loved and all of this. But also, at the same time, some of her actions leading up to the book, maybe have been a little bit smothering, a little bit like not. It's easy, I think, for her to fall into the habit of taking care of Zoe in a certain way and and kind of not realizing that at the beginning that Zoe is also wanting to go on her own young adult journey and break out of that. I think along the way, a lot of it is Kaylee opening her eyes to see what Zoe has been telling and showing her all along, and realizing and accepting things for her sister that may not have been what she initially envisioned.
So, Taylor, earlier on, you said that this was the book that you wanted to see growing up. What are your hopes for audience reactions as we are approaching the release date of this book? Have you seen any early responses and reviews? And what has the response been from editors and publishers so far?
We've gotten a great review from Publishers Weekly and from Kirkus Reviews. They thought I had a lot of heart, and some very important messages in there. Um, I hope that, that the reviews are great from readers. I mean, that's who this is all for. Um, Really, the story is something that I wished for as a kid, but at the same time, part of the point of this is to hand the characters over to the readers and make them theirs and what they do with them. Um, I hope that it inspires people and makes them feel seen. Um, it's whether you have a sibling with disabilities or not, or somebody like, I just hope that some of the existential questions and things that I've posed in this book, I hope that people really take them to heart.
And as we're reaching the end of this interview, I have the question that I like to ask all authors. It's a little more open ended, so use this to say your final words as well. Taylor, how do you see yourself and the work that you do as a writer?
I hope that my work feels like a friend to other young adults. Like, I want them to to feel seen, to understand different perspectives, and to feel like it's a safe environment and a safe place to examine their own lives and their own stories. I always just loved authors that wrote with a lot of great voice and humor growing up, and they really did feel like a best friend when you can feel like lonely or isolated. And I would just really like to be that for readers. That would be really amazing.
Thank you. That was an interview with Taylor Hobbs. Her new book, Heartbreak and Other Organ Failures, is out now. You can learn more about Taylor and her work at taylorhobbsauthor.com. If you appreciate the work being done on this show, there are a number of ways to show your support. First, you can like, comment, or follow wherever you are currently listening to help push the show out to new listeners. Second, you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at BookFairPod. Lastly, you can go to patreon.com/thebookfair. Following on Patreon is free, and there are no posts hidden behind a paywall. Of course, the best way to help the Book Fair podcast grow is simply to share it with a friend, an educator, or a young reader in your life. Thank you so very much for listening, and as always, I'll talk at you next time.